I'll do a quick intro and then we'll dive right into it. So before we get into the questions, I will just ask about your background. How did you get started in dentistry?
Hmm.
We'll spend maybe a few minutes on that and then we'll dive straight into the questions.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Let me do the intro.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast. My name is Ben Tuine. Jordan Comstock is not available to join us today, so he is recovering from the Thanksgiving holiday. I actually have no idea where he is. He went to the Greater New York meeting, and currently his house is sitting empty. There are no tire tracks through the snow in his driveway, so I know he's out of town, probably doing something fun. Who knows? But it's me today, and I have a great guest with us. Actually, somebody I've been really looking forward to chatting with. Morgan Millett. Did I pronounce that last thing right? Millett?
Yes. Yep. That's it.
Well, Morgan, well, thank you for taking time and welcome to our podcast show today.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so you and I were connected by, I know his last name is Red.
Kimball.
Kimball.
Yes.
So Kimball approached me through another dental referral. Of course, Kimball's it's not in dental like you and I are.
Hmm.
But he approached me to kind of pitch his HMA program, which is kind of a different version of a health savings account. But he put together a list of dental contacts because he's trying to get into dental now. And you're one of the contacts that he recommended that I get a hold of. So I spoke to you and I was very impressed about your background and what you did, what you're currently doing, especially.
Yeah.
So just for our listeners, before we get into some of the questions that we have for you, can
Mhm.
you briefly go through your history? How did you start it in dentistry? You know, what your experience is, what you're up to today and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. So I started in the dental field right after I graduated high school. I met a dentist in our neighborhood and he hired me to come in and be his receptionist. And so he started to train me just from the ground up. And I worked for him for a couple months and then I moved back here to Utah. I was out of state, and I've just been working for different dental offices for the past 10 years. I have assisting experience and front office experience. Um, Back in 2020, I started my own company for dental billing,
Mhm.
and I've been doing that for the past couple years. And about a year ago, I started a front office friend, and it's kind of my creative outlet. I needed something to write about, and the best topic I could write about was dental billing and the tips and tricks when it comes to billing insurance and running a smooth office. And I joined a couple dental Facebook groups, and I started noticing that there were a lot of people asking questions when it came to standard operating procedures. And I was reflecting a little bit, and I was thinking, there's not a lot of courses or certificates when it comes to front office education. It's not like dental assisting where you can go to dental assisting school or hygiene school or dental school. There's nothing really for front office. And
Mhm.
if we need information, there are just a multitude of websites. We have to go to different websites, different consultants. And, I realized I could create something that could help other offices where I can, pull all my experience and my knowledge that I've gained this past 10 years, and I can consolidate it into a book and a website. So it is all in one place, one location. And a lot of the stuff that I wrote about in my book, I've been doing this for years. I've been doing, these protocols and policies, and I've had really good success with it. I've had 100% collections rate for the past couple of years. I've
Mhm.
collected, over $1 million in insurance money just from starting my billing company. So,
Wow.
the stuff that I put in my book, like it works for me, and I want to share it with everyone I can because I think it's useful. I think
Yeah.
this is, all the information I wished I had 10 years ago when I was starting. So I know I probably could have been a little bit more valuable of an employee had I known this stuff.
your experience is the typical experience in dental, right? It's like it's kind of like having a baby. It's like, where's the manual, right? What do I do next? In terms
Yeah,
of how do I raise this little guy or little gal?
right.
And this is probably one of the more important needs in dentistry today, as you know, with
Hmm.
all the turnover, right? There's people just leaving industries, and it's not just
Yeah.
dentistry, it's every industry, but in
Hmm.
dentistry in particular, the pool of qualified candidates is so small
Hmm.
that a lot of doctors have no choice but to hire people that don't have experience. And
Hmm.
so when they hire these people, they're learning on the job, right? Just kind of like what you did.
Exactly.
But sometimes learning on the job is very costly to the business owner, where
Yeah.
you have to tolerate all the mistakes, in terms of getting
Hmm.
that person trained. And unfortunately, you have to you have to tolerate those mistakes. That's just life in general, right? We learn through our
Right.
mistakes. Or you can get a certificate. You can get trained
Right.
on things and invest time and money and resources into getting trained. So that kind of
Hmm.
leads me to the first question. So you wrote this book about front office insurance administration.
Hmm.
Um, what motivated you? At least your timing is probably very perfect for what dentistry needs. What
Yeah.
motivated you to write the book in 2000? You wrote in 2020?
So I actually wrote my book over the summer this year, and
Oh, this year.
yes, so I started my
Ah.
billing company back in 2020,
Hmm.
and then about a year ago in December, so of yeah, 21, I started writing for Front Office Friend.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah.
what inspired you to get started with that project?
Well, I was asked to consult at an office,
Mhm.
and it was a brand new startup. Dennis just graduated from school, within the last couple years, and his wife was doing the office managing. And she started following my account and just had been reading what I was posting. And she reached out. She said, "Hey, can you come to my office and teach me some of this stuff? I have no idea what to do. I don't know what reports to run and what I need to be looking for." And I said, "Yeah, give me 2 weeks. Let me pull all my documents. Let me write you a handbook. We can just kind of go step by step." And so I took the 2 weeks. I just kind of put one together. It's just off Microsoft Word.
Mhm.
And I took it to this office to teach them. And they found it, at least they told me they found it really helpful to
Yeah.
list the checklists. And it should just be, basic stuff as in, locking the door, turning off the lights, logging out of the computers. But I worked at offices where they don't do that. They just,
Mhm.
up and leave at 5 p.m. And I kept answering a whole bunch of comments on Facebook groups of people asking questions like this, and
Mhm.
said, you know what? It was kind of a personal challenge for myself. Can I create something that I can apply to 99% of dental offices that can be helpful and resourceful, just so we can, navigate this whole insurance game and get our dentists paid for the work
Mhm.
that they're doing. And
Yeah.
I think dentists, they've worked so hard and going to school and their residency and then either buying a practice, starting a practice, that they deserve to be paid for the work that they're doing.
Mhm.
And I want to help them. I want to help their staff so we can get them paid. We can be
Yeah.
organized and consistent, efficient,
Mhm.
all of that.
Yeah, in a way, what you know and what you've written about and your expertise is sort of an essential part of dentistry, right?
Hmm.
Where in the vast majority of dental practices, 80 to 90% of their accounts receivables are tied to a patient that has an insurance plan, right?
Yes.
And
Yep.
when you have hundreds and hundreds of different types of plans, different types of policies and coverage,
Hmm.
at some point, somebody at the front office is going to need to have the skill set and understanding on how to deal with the receivables or even just
Hmm.
the administration in general to make sure that the business stays afloat, right?
Right.
Um, and so as far as it pertains to issues as when we're talking about front office administration, what
Mhm.
do you think are some of the biggest challenges that dentists face in the front office today?
Well, I mean, insurance is getting harder and harder to get payment from. so that is a thing. Um, Not knowing, just the lack of education, especially because, dentists, when they go to school, it's all about the clinical side. They might have a
Mhm.
class or two about the business side. And just not knowing, what daily, weekly, monthly reports that we need to run and how to read these reports and how to make goals off of these numbers and how to calculate our percentages, and just I think just the lack of education
Mhm.
for them, and then for their staff as well. Even if the dentist knows, the dentist is dentisting. He's back with patients. He can't train
Yeah,
the staff at the same time.
totally. I think one of the challenges that I see in dentistry today as it pertains to the front office is there are some dentists that do everything. They do the clinical, they do their own prophies, and then they do their own posting. They do their own pre-auths. They do everything from start to finish. And almost always, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you're a listener that has a different opinion on this, but from my observation, what I see most of the time is that those are not very successful practices. They maybe collect 300,000-400,000 a year with a
Mhm,
40% overhead. That's great income for a single doctor. But in
mhm,
terms of the stress level of those doctors, and from what I see in
mhm,
terms of quality of life, it's not there. It's mainly because you're spread too thin.
mhm,
There's a book out there. Oh, gosh, I can't remember the name of it.
mhm,
But the author says that true professionals become good at 10 things, and they do
mhm.
those 10 things 10,000 times and 10,000 times over. And what they find when they do those 10 things is that their lives and their careers are so much less stressful, and they're so much more successful, because whenever anybody needs those 10 things done, I'm the guy or I'm the gal for that, and I can do that for you, and I'll do it
Mhm.
fast and efficient, right? And you just duplicate that. And I kind of feel like that's my day, right? I just do
Yeah.
10 things, and I do them, I perfect them and do them 10,000 times and 10,000 times over and over again, to where if somebody asks me to do something outside of that realm of expertise, it's a disservice to that person asking me to do that, because I'm not as good as that as others. So delegation is a key,
Right.
is the key, right? And part of
Yes.
what
Yeah.
you've written is a book that they can buy to sort of delegate that training out to a professional to help those doctors train their team members, especially in this day and age where the pool of candidates is so thin,
Hmm.
of qualified people that know front office administration. It's kind of like where I'm from. So you see the background of my video there. That's
Yeah.
where my mom's from in Hawaii, but I was born and raised in Samoa. And
Uh-huh.
my family, we built a cultural center there, sort of a living museum where you can come and enjoy real Samoan culture, the
Hmm.
weaving of the baskets, the carving of the different tikis that you see when you go to Hawaii, and all,
Yeah.
all the different the rocks that they, or the bones that they carve into different things.
Hmm.
It was interesting to me that the people that teach you how to carve or how to weave fine mats, um, they are actually a dying breed. There's nobody on our island that knows how to do certain of those skills, right? It's
Uh-huh.
like that information is not being passed on from generation to generation. So what
Right.
you know, Morgan, it's like so many people have left dentistry that know front office, and they're doing different things now, right? They've
Hmm.
decided to quit dentistry. They didn't like it anymore for whatever reason. But the
Right.
knowledge hasn't been passed on, right?
Hmm.
Except with you. Now you have a book. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I know.
So let's talk about this book here that you have. So
Okay.
walk me through what is your book? What is it called? And what's included in this book?
Okay. So it is called the Front Office Friend Front Office Handbook. And in the book, I have a section where you can put, where offices can put their office information. And as far as doctors, tax ID, NPI, the address, the hours, um, specialists that they refer to, labs that you use, just to compile all the information. It's in one spot. It's organized. It's just easy and accessible. And then, so I have the insurance information and, or the, not the insurance information, the office information. That's the first section. The second section is the checklist. So I have daily, weekly, and monthly tasks, and then checklists for each task. And I list out the reports that need to be run on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And I have a place for the office to put their scheduling guidelines. So just when it comes to front office, you have all the information right here in a book. It's just, yeah, accessible and easy. The third section I have is my insurance index, and that's where I list step-by-step instructions on how to send claims and what attachments and documentation you need for certain claims, how to resend additional information, how to write appeals, and what kind of research you need to do, what kind of lingo you need to use when you're writing an effective appeal letter. And then I have important insurance terms to know and how to calculate patient portions if your computer software isn't set up. Because there's a wrong way to calculate the deductible, and I was doing it wrong for 7 years until I finally figured it out because I was taught wrong and the person before. So, you know, navigating dual insurances, I have a form in there how when to do adjustments and who's primary, who's secondary, and then what to do when insurance comes after you and they want a refund for services you did 2 years ago, how to navigate that.
That's a big one right now.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's,
Yeah.
go ahead, continue.
Oh, that was it. And then probably my most favorite thing that I have in my book, it's called the visit form system. And it's commonly known as route slips or routers. I've seen this system in all types of healthcare offices, but it's a system that you can implement in any office, any type of office, and it just streamlines the check-in and check-out process when you're checking in, checking out patients, just to ensure you're getting all the information, you're collecting the copays and coinsurances at the time of service. Next visits are scheduled. Back office can communicate on this form, hey, I need you to schedule, let's do number 13 crown next visit, we're going to need 90 minutes. Just an inter-office communication system. It's a tangible checklist that we're together as a team, front office and back office, we're getting all the information, we're collecting all the money, we're scheduling the appointments. And when it comes time, if you need to make a treatment plan, let's set this in the treatment plan pile. We'll make a treatment plan that looks really nice. We'll call the patient and explain it to them over the phone or send it to them in the mail. But that way, things aren't falling through the cracks. We're not dismissing patients without having them pay or getting new insurance information, because that's I think that's a big issue that happens in a lot of offices, is not getting the correct information before patient is being seen.
Yeah, we see that quite a bit. There are
Mhm.
practices that, like the Aetna Costco plans, as an example, you have a lot of practices that are out of network with Aetna. And when they get a Costco patient calling them saying, hey, I'm Aetna, I have Costco, or whatever, and these practices make the assumption, oh, we see a lot of Costco patients. Let's go, they get this person scheduled. They don't get all the right level of detail. Patient comes in, gets treated, then you submit the claim to their insurance, and you gave the patient the expectation, oh, we did a new patient exam, a pano, and a prophy. That's normally covered at 100%. So there's nothing, that you owe today. You get the EOB back and it's fully denied. And it says, this practice is out of network, and your plan is an EPO, an exclusive provider organization, where you can only go to an in-network provider to use your benefits.
Oh, man.
So now the practice is sort of in a bind, right? It's like, if you try to collect from the patient's going to say, I was not informed that you were out of network and I couldn't get any of my benefits. So naturally, if you pursued collections with that patient, which many offices try to do that, but the patient can counter and say, well, I wasn't informed. Part of informed consent is knowing the financial obligations, having that clearly outlined. And I wasn't informed of any of that. You should be eating the cost. So naturally, and then these businesses, these practices end up eating the cost of that treatment, because the patient does have a legitimate argument, right, that they can throw back to the practice. So this
Right.
visit form system, I really like that, to where it's sort of a protocol to safeguard the practice. Sounds like to me in two areas. Number one, financially, right? Making sure that you have systems in place to protect the practice financially. But
Hmm.
number two, to make sure that the patient doesn't have a crap experience, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah, I like that. I think everybody should get that for that reason. So,
Mhm.
what are some things that when you talk about you reach 100% collections? I remember when I
Mhm.
started in dentistry, I was hired specifically to negotiate fees. I wasn't
Uh-huh.
hired for anything else. But being in that role and working really fast and getting the fees negotiated and having no prior experience in that, I impressed some people and they said, well,
Mhm.
if you're that good at that, let's have you run the entire $50 million accounts receivable department.
Oh my goodness.
And most of it was insurance. And I was like, I have no idea what to do here, but we
Mhm.
didn't collect 100%. I think we were hovering at 63%. But I went in and, like, kind of like what you did, I trial and error. I observed and I looked at systems and processes. And like, why aren't we collecting co-payments at the time of treatment? That's number one.
Right.
Where patients are walking out and we're not collecting anything. To me, I was like, that's a big no-no. I wouldn't
Hmm.
appreciate, at least let me pay something now, mainly because
Right.
statements, what we found, or at least what I observed, is that sending out statements to patients, a lot of these patients resisted, right? Or they just didn't pay.
Yeah.
You had to
Yeah.
send them to collections. But when we reversed that policy and started collecting up front, and then the next layer that I saw was we're
Mhm.
getting these downgrades, and now we're having to still send statements out, which our goal was to eliminate statements. We're not going to send statements anymore. So we
Hmm.
we addressed the downgrades by factoring that into the co-payments, right? Everybody
Yeah.
was charged an additional amount. Now we were sending refunds instead of statements.
Hmm.
We bumped the collect just within, I think, 4 or 5 months. We bumped it up from 63 to 98%, and then eventually we got up to the 100. Well, because we were playing catch up, we actually got to 112%
Right. Oh, that's awesome. That's
above.
amazing.
That's because the numbers are measured against what you build out this month. We collected 113 to 11% more because we were catching
Right.
up for previous months. So on this
Right.
issue, in terms of the 100% collection, what do you
Yeah.
see that prohibits, or at least it is a challenge for doctors in maintaining that 100% collection rate?
Um, the challenges. Not making sure you're hiring people who know their duties. They have, the delegation of duties has to be, I think, a priority. So that all of your staff, they know this is my job. And then they can kind of focus on their duties and learn and get better and grow. The insurance game, it's constantly changing, and there's so much education and so much to learn how to navigate these plans. And you can get certain limitations waived. There's a missing tooth clause loophole that insurances they just don't tell you about. um so yeah, making sure, um yeah, so the duties, and then making sure we're running reports and calculating the collections percentage every month and figuring out the average. And I use that to base all of my goals. So if I was at 96% 1 month, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm 98, 99, 100. And I was like, you know what? I had to send out more statements this month. Let me revisit my treatment planning process and
Mhm.
let me start to account for downgrades. I'm seeing, insurance has changed the codes, the downgrade codes for crowns. Let me start figuring out more accurate treatment plans, and then kind of preparing patients to expect a statement and kind of be okay with it. Like, hey, I'm going to collect this now. If there's anything left owing, I'll send you a statement. And
Mhm.
telling patients that ahead of time, it's like, oh, okay, if I get a statement, I was expecting that,
Right.
in a way. And you have to train your patients to be good patients.
Yeah. yeah, it's building the right expectations and, sort of
Hmm.
setting the patient up for, well, at least the practice up for optimum success. There's one office manager that she had such a hard time figuring out when things are going to be downgraded and factoring that into what she was collecting from patients.
Hmm.
She decided to throw out every fee schedule. She deleted every PPO fee schedule from her practice management system. And her policy
Hmm.
was, I'm just going to collect based upon the office fees, because I would rather deal with a patient that's getting a refund because they're not going to yell at me versus a patient that's going to get a collection statement. And even if it's $5, they turn in from being a good patient into a terrible patient,
Yep.
you know. And she did that. And I was blown away at her experience. She came back and reported back. She said, yeah, it's a little bit more work to print checks and send them out, but I
Hmm.
would be happy to lick envelopes at the end of the day than to
Exactly.
field a
Yeah.
bunch of angry phone calls that I can't get to right now and not sleep at night, just dreading coming back into the office the next day because you got to get back to these people, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I think your tips are really, really awesome. Just making sure that what you're collecting is accurate and perhaps even overestimating, and then
Hmm.
correcting it when the EOB comes in, and
Right.
try your best to eliminate sending statements out if you can. So I
Hmm.
think as it pertains to, so I'm assuming a lot of these things are in your book, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So in terms of just the basic level of training, which I think is very valuable for front office team members or anybody,
Hmm.
even doctors that do a lot of front office management themselves, what
Hmm.
other things can doctors and team members gain by purchasing your book?
They can gain just the foundation and of running a front office. And, we go through all the tasks, all the checklists and everything. And then it puts everybody in the office on the same page. So we're telling patients the same things, we're doing the same protocols, and we're sticking by what's written out in the book. And my book comes in a Microsoft Word document, so each office can edit it and tweak it to fit the needs of their practice. So, we have back office, they do this one thing, but front office, we're going to do this. And they can tweak it and edit it so it's customizable to
Mhm.
their practice. And anybody, whether it's an assistant or a hygienist, can help fill in for the front office because they have all the information in the book. A hygienist can take a payment and maybe enter it in the software because I have checklists for that. And if we're hiring new staff, um, all the office policies are written in the book. It's just a resource to have for everyone in the office, just to make sure the front office is running smooth. We're collecting copays, we're getting the correct information so we can have a 100% collections
Mhm.
percentage.
I like that. I think that's awesome. With all the training going virtual and in writing these days, which is what Fortune 500 companies do. When they hire people, they put you through a 2 to 3 or even sometimes a 4 week training protocol where all you're doing are watching videos, taking tests, and just really learning the processes, right? And we do the same thing in our business. Every time we hire, we have videos, we have written job descriptions that explain exactly what you need to do.
Mhm.
Um, when we hire, you might laugh at this, or people might even email me saying that's such a stupid thing to do. But
Mhm.
when I hire, I always ask people, do you shop at IKEA or do you buy Legos? And if you don't, or if you do or you don't, do you enjoy building things that have like instructions, right? And what I find when people say, yeah, I love buying kits, right? And putting them together at home, or I
Yeah.
love buying Legos. My
Mhm.
kids love them and I love getting together with them and helping them, or I love puzzles. And that's an important question to me as it pertains to training. If they come to
Mhm.
me and they say, I hate Legos, I hate following those instructions, I just can never figure it out, that immediately tells me
Mhm.
that our training is not going to resonate with them because they're going to have to do a lot of reading, right? They're going to have to
Right.
do a lot of piecing together of puzzles. connecting the dots on the training in an effort for them to kind of see the whole vision of things, right? And I think that's the front office for you. It is a complex Lego set
Yep.
that you need formal instructional training to get it right. That is, you can spend years learning, like what you mentioned, 7 years of not figuring out the deductibles.
Oh my gosh. Right.
So no, that's quite amazing. So we've been talking about your book. Let's end on this. How can listeners who might be interested in this find your book?
So I have a website. It is www.frontofficefriend.com. And on my website, you are welcome to purchase the entire book, or if you just want the checklists, I have that as an option, as well as the insurance index. So I have the table of contents listed on the website. I also have a blog where I write tips and tricks. Some stuff is included in the book and some stuff is not, but it's all searchable on my blog. I also have free resources. I have an insurance breakdown form, an appeal letter template, how to appeal insurance refund requests and what letter to use with that. So my books that are available for purchase, and I also have my free resources on there as well. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram as Front Office Friend. And yeah.
Very good. Awesome. So we'll post this in the show notes for many of you that are usually driving when you're listening to podcasts. So just click the drop menu on the show notes there, and you can see the frontofficefriends.com website there, where you can get a hold of Morgan's resources. Morgan, any final thoughts or anything interesting that you want to share that you feel like the dental industry needs to know as it pertains to what you see in the dental industry with regards to front office and insurance administration in general?
Right. What I see is that the insurance is an ever-changing game, and I'm trying my hardest to stay on top of it, to stay in the know, so I can provide helpful resources, whether they're free or you purchase, but so you can have all the resources that you need to run an efficient, proficient dental office.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's awesome. And I agree. Well, folks, Morgan, thank you so much for your time and sharing these valuable resources with our listeners. Again, we're going to post all of these in the show notes. And then if anybody has questions for Morgan, her website has all her contact information in there.
Yep.
And then, of course, we are 100% accepting guests on the podcast. We're going to be doing a series on insurance administration in general and inviting office managers and front office team members throughout the country to sort of share their experiences. And if you want to nominate somebody to be on the podcast, just send us an email. And our email address is in any of the show notes for any of the podcasts that you're listening to today. But folks, thank you so much for your time. Morgan, thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure. And we want to wish everybody a happy holidays here at 2022 at the end of the year, and a great, strong 2023. Take care, everybody.